Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Have you ever wondered why in the loudest moments of your life your heart feels the loneliest? Why the noise outside grows but the quiet inside deepens? It's almost as if Allah is calling you back, not with thunder but with stillness, reminding you that your soul was never designed to survive on noise. Sometimes the greatest realization is this: Allah speaks to the heart that listens, and a heart drowning in worry, fear, and constant comparison can't hear the whisper of its creator. Allah says that He is closer to you than your jugular vein, yet somehow we listen to everything except Him. The world pulls, people demand, expectations crush, but Allah invites, quietly, gently, mercifully. And the truth is, life hurts. Hearts break. Plans collapse. Doors close. People you trusted leave without warning. You pray for something that seems to move farther away every day. You try to heal, but the memories keep echoing. That's the noise, the emotional static that fills the mind until it becomes impossible to feel peace. But this is exactly where faith begins its most beautiful work. Because in those moments, when every distraction fails you, Allah is guiding you toward a different kind of clarity, the clarity that comes from surrender. This is what sabr truly means, not the absence of pain, but the decision to turn your pain into prayer, to let your tears fall before the one who never grows tired of hearing your voice. Remember, the Prophet taught us that Allah is with the brokenhearted, with the ones who quietly endure, with the souls that try again every single morning. You see, divine timing is not slow, it is perfect. Every delay is a redirection. Every heartbreak is a cleansing. Every unanswered dua is being prepared for a better moment, one you cannot see yet, but one Allah has already written with love. Qadr is not meant to scare you, it is meant to free you. Free you from believing that you must carry everything alone. So here is something to hold on to. When the noise of life overwhelms you, return to the one who created silence. When your thoughts race, pause and remember Allah. When uncertainty surrounds you, whisper Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakeel. Allah is enough for me. When your heart feels heavy, let dhikr wash over it like a soft rain, because your healing begins the moment you stop listening to the world and start listening to the one who fashioned your soul. Maybe all this time Allah has been calling you back, not through miracles or sudden signs, but through the quiet ache inside you, the ache that says there is more to your life than this noise. The journey home begins when you listen. Return to Allah and the noise will fade. Return to Allah and your heart will finally hear what it has been longing to hear all along. The heart hears Allah most clearly when the world becomes quiet. When life becomes loud, it's not just the sound outside that affects you. It's the noise inside. The thoughts that spiral, the doubts that echo, the worries that replay like an endless soundtrack. This internal noise builds slowly, quietly, until it becomes the very atmosphere of your heart. And in that state, even the gentlest guidance from Allah feels distant, not because He is far, but because your heart is crowded. Silence is not merely the absence of sound, it is the space in which your soul can finally breathe. When you step away from the constant pull of conversations, opinions, notifications, and expectations, something remarkable begins to happen. Your heart starts to recalibrate. The layers of distraction peel away, revealing the deeper truths you've ignored. You begin to feel the weight of what truly matters and the emptiness of what never did. In quiet moments, your heart becomes honest. It admits its fears, its longing, its weakness, and its hope. It admits that it needs Allah, and that admission is the door to guidance. Allah's mercy flows most clearly into a heart that is attentive, reflective, and still. This is why Allah calls believers to remember Him often, because remembrance creates a silence inside, a space where the noise of dunya cannot enter. When the world becomes quiet, your soul awakens to the beauty of its own fitrah, the natural inclination toward its creator. You start to recognize the subtle ways Allah comforts you, the signs He places in your path, the peace that only comes from turning toward Him. In silence, you discover that Allah was never absent. The noise simply made you forget how close He truly is. The heart hears Allah most clearly when the world becomes quiet. This truth unfolds gently, often after long periods of restlessness. When you step away from the noise of life, not just the physical sounds, but the emotional storms and mental clutter, your heart begins to recover its natural state. Every human heart was created with the ability to feel its Lord, to sense divine nearness, to respond to spiritual truth. But when the world's chatter grows too loud, that delicate spiritual sensitivity becomes muffled. Quiet moments allow the heart to detox. They give you the space to notice what truly sits inside you. The fears you've ignored, the wounds you've carried, the dua you keep postponing, the hope you dared not admit. In silence, the heart finally speaks. It tells you where you are spiritually, what you're missing, and what you deeply long for. The absence of noise becomes the presence of clarity. When the world outside slows down, the inner world becomes sharper. You start to distinguish between the whispers of anxiety and the whisper of guidance. You begin to see that the world's noise had been shaping your reactions, your emotions, even your sense of worth. Only in stillness do you realize how heavy that noise truly was. And it is in this stillness that Allah's nearness becomes more noticeable. The heart softens, remembrance becomes sweeter, reflection becomes deeper. You start recognizing that the peaceful pull you feel in silence is actually an invitation from Allah, a reminder that He never left, that He was waiting for you to quiet the world enough to hear Him again. Silence does not distance you from life. It brings you closer to your true life, the life of the soul, which thrives only when it can listen to Allah with an open, uncluttered heart. Internal chaos often comes from relying on dunya more than the Creator. This chaos doesn't arrive all at once. It grows slowly, almost invisibly. It begins when we shift our trust from Allah to the people, outcomes, and expectations of this temporary world. When we depend too heavily on what is fragile, our hearts become fragile with it. And when those things inevitably change, break, or disappoint, the heart collapses under the weight of misplaced reliance. The dunya was never meant to be leaned on. It was only meant to be walked through. But when we start leaning on it, seeking validation from people, stability from material things, or certainty from our own plans, the heart becomes restless. It constantly fears loss because everything it clings to can be taken away at any moment. And that fear becomes the internal noise that keeps us awake at night, unable to find peace. Chaos forms inside when we forget who truly controls our provision, our relationships, our future, and our healing. We act as if people must approve us for life to move forward. We act as if our efforts alone guarantee success. We act as if our worth comes from achievements, beauty, or social presence. This subtle spiritual shift pulls the heart away from Allah and closer to anxiety. But when the heart returns to relying on Allah, the chaos slowly untangles itself. Trust replaces fear. Contentment replaces comparison. Presence replaces panic. When you place your weight on the one who cannot fall, you find a steadiness the world could never offer. To rely on Allah is not to abandon effort, it is to anchor your effort in a power far greater than your own. And from that anchoring comes inner quiet, because the heart finally remembers that it was never created to carry the dunya. It was created to trust the Lord of the dunya. Allah brings moments of silence to turn you back to Him. These moments are not accidents, nor are they empty spaces in your life. They are purposeful pauses crafted by divine wisdom. Sometimes everything around you slows down, friendships shift, opportunities pause, conversations become fewer, and even your own desires feel muted. You may feel confused or lonely, wondering why life suddenly lost its noise. But often, this is Allah quietly inviting you to a deeper connection. When the world becomes silent, the heart is exposed. Its wounds rise to the surface, its longings become clearer. And in that exposed state, you finally become aware of what you were too busy to notice, the distance between you and Allah. Silence reveals what distraction hides. It shows you what truly hurts, what you've been avoiding, and what your soul has been starving for. These moments of stillness are divine interventions. They stop you from running toward things that would harm you. They interrupt the paths that were leading you away from your purpose. They clear the noise so you can hear the whispers of guidance you had been drowning out. Allah uses quietness as a form of mercy, a space where you can reset your intentions, realign your heart, and remember the one who has always been there. In silence, your dua becomes more sincere. Your thoughts become more honest. Your heart becomes softer, and you begin to feel a longing that no person, no achievement, no worldly noise could satisfy. That longing is your soul remembering its creator. Moments of silence are not signs of abandonment. They are signs of divine closeness. Allah slows the world around you so that you can finally look inward, upward, and return to Him with clarity. Through quiet, He guides you back to the path your heart was created to walk. True peace begins when you stop chasing people's approval. The human heart was never built to survive on the shifting opinions of others. Yet so many of us carry this exhausting burden. We measure our worth by how people see us, how they respond, how they praise or criticize. We bend ourselves into shapes that do not belong to us, just to fit expectations that were never meant to define us. And over time, this pursuit becomes a source of deep inner turbulence, a constant fear of disappointing, a constant need to impress, a constant worry that someone's opinion might change. The truth is, people's approval is fragile. It changes with mood, perspective, misunderstanding, or momentary emotion. What they love today, they may question tomorrow. What they praise in you now, they may forget later. When your peace depends on such instability, your heart becomes unstable with it. You begin to live in a silent tension, always watching yourself, always adjusting, always afraid to be your real self. This is not peace, it is captivity. But when you shift your gaze from creation to the Creator, the weight begins to lift. Allah's approval does not change. His mercy does not fluctuate. His love does not depend on how perfect you appear, but on how sincerely you turn to Him. And when your heart centers itself on pleasing Allah, you find a freedom that the world could never give you. You no longer fear people's judgment because you trust the one who knows your intentions. You no longer overthink your worth because you know it is safe with the one who created you. True peace begins the moment you stop trying to be enough for people and start trying to be sincere for Allah. When your heart no longer chases their validation, it finally has space to feel the calm, steady, unchanging acceptance of the one whose approval truly matters. Pain softens the heart so it can receive divine guidance. At first, pain feels like something breaking inside you, something precious, something you thought you could never live without. It shakes your sense of stability, rearranges your priorities, and forces you to confront truths you may have been avoiding. Pain is uncomfortable, sometimes overwhelming, and it can make you feel lost in your own life. But in the unseen realm of your heart, something profound is happening. Pain humbles you. It strips away pride, ego, and illusions of control. It reminds you that you are human, fragile, and deeply dependent on Allah. When everything is going well, the heart forgets its need for the one who sustains it. But when pain enters, the heart becomes tender again. It becomes a place where dua flows sincerely, where humility emerges naturally, and where even a whisper of remembrance feels grounding and real. This softness created by pain is not weakness. It is spiritual readiness. A hardened heart cannot receive guidance. It resists truth, ignores signs, and avoids introspection. But a softened heart is open to reflection, open to surrender, open to change. Pain cracks the hard shell we build around ourselves, allowing the light of guidance to enter places it never reached before. Many of the most transformative moments in a believer's life begin with heartbreak, loss, or disappointment. These moments push you to ask deeper questions, to turn inward, and ultimately to turn upward. They make you realize that nothing in this world is truly yours except your connection with Allah. Through pain, Allah redirects you, refines you, and rebuilds you in ways you may not understand at first. Pain is not a punishment. It is an invitation. It softens the heart so it can finally hear, feel, and embrace the guidance Allah has been sending all along. Tawakkul grows when you surrender what you cannot control. Much of the anxiety we live with comes from trying to manage every outcome, predict every possibility, and protect ourselves from every fear. We hold tightly to plans, expectations, and timelines, believing that control equals safety. But life constantly reminds us that we are not the authors of destiny. The more we try to force things into our mold, the more exhausted and restless we become. Tawakkul begins at the exact moment this exhaustion turns into realization. To surrender is not to give up. It is to acknowledge that there is a limit to human effort and an infinite power in divine will. Surrender is saying to Allah, I will do my part with sincerity, but I trust you with the result. It is understanding that your job is in the effort and Allah's job is in the outcome. When you internalize this, a new kind of calm settles into your heart. A calm that comes from knowing that your life is not a lonely battle, but a guided journey. Letting go of what you cannot control frees your heart from the burden of unnecessary expectations. You stop trying to fix people who do not want to change. You stop trying to predict a future that is already written. You stop trying to hold together what Allah is gently pulling you away from. You begin to trust that even in the moments where everything feels uncertain, you are exactly where Allah wants you to be. Tawakkul is built in the quiet acceptance that Allah's plan is kinder, wiser, and more complete than anything you could design. When you surrender the weight you were never meant to carry, your soul becomes lighter. Your dua becomes deeper. Your steps become steadier. And you discover that trusting Allah is not a last resort. It is the most powerful form of peace your heart will ever know. Qadr teaches that nothing missed you except what was never written for you. This truth carries a quiet strength, one that gently lifts the heart out of regret and releases it from the chains of what if. Human beings naturally look back at their lives and replay moments, wondering if things could have been different. We imagine alternate paths, different outcomes, and better endings. But Qadr reminds us that every moment, every gain, every loss, every turn was written long before we took our first breath. When you understand Qadr, you begin to see life through a softer lens. What left you was never meant to stay, and what stayed with you could never have left. You stop blaming yourself for things that were beyond your control. You stop mourning opportunities that were never destined for your hands. You stop carrying the weight of outcomes that were never yours to produce. There is a deep relief in accepting that Allah's decree is not random. It is purposeful, measured, and rooted in His perfect wisdom. This acceptance does not mean you stop caring or striving. It means you strive with effort, but rest with trust. You understand that your responsibility ends where Allah's plan begins. When something slips away, instead of breaking, your heart leans into the belief that Allah protected you from something unseen. When something arrives unexpectedly, you recognize it as a gift written for you long ago. Qadr teaches patience in waiting, peace in uncertainty, and gratitude in unfolding blessings. It turns your attention away from the illusion of control toward the serenity of surrender. You begin to live with the calm assurance that every delay, every hardship, every closed door is part of a divine arrangement designed to guide you, grow you, and ultimately bring you closer to Allah. When you fully embrace Qadr, regret fades, fear lessens, and the heart settles. You realize that nothing meant for you will ever pass you by, and nothing that passed you by was ever meant for you. Sabr is not passive, it is strength in stillness. Many people mistake sabr for simply waiting, enduring, or remaining quiet while life unfolds. But in Islam, sabr is an active, powerful state of the heart. It is not weakness, nor resignation, nor pretending that pain doesn't exist. Sabr is choosing to stay spiritually anchored when everything around you is trying to pull you into despair. It is strength wrapped in softness, courage wrapped in calm. True sabr means you remain connected to Allah even when your situation feels heavy. It means you keep praying when answers feel delayed. Keep trusting when outcomes seem unclear, and keep moving with hope even when you feel tired. Sabr is the internal discipline of saying, I refuse to let this hardship separate me from the one who can heal it. It is quiet dignity in the midst of storms, a refusal to allow temporary emotions to dictate permanent decisions. Stillness does not mean doing nothing. It means resisting the urge to rush, panic, or force solutions that Allah has not opened. It means staying steady, not stagnant. It means restraining the tongue from complaint, not the heart from asking Allah for help. It means choosing wisdom over impulse, faith over fear, and patience over pressure. Hardships test sabr because they reveal what the heart is anchored to. If you are anchored to outcomes, sabr becomes difficult. If you are anchored to Allah, sabr becomes a source of strength. With sabr, your heart learns to breathe through pain, to trust divine timing, and to stay soft even when life feels harsh. Sabr teaches you that you do not need immediate change to feel inner peace. You only need to trust that Allah sees you, knows you, and is guiding every moment of your journey. In that trust, stillness becomes powerful, and patience becomes a path to profound spiritual growth. Healing begins when you let Allah rewrite your narrative. Many people hold on to their pain as if it defines them. They replay old moments, repeat old stories, and relive old heartbreaks until those experiences become the lens through which they see themselves. But the truth is, pain is a chapter, not the entire book. Healing starts the moment you stop telling your story as if you are the victim of life and begin telling it as someone guided, protected, and transformed by Allah. Letting Allah rewrite your narrative means loosening your grip on the version of your life shaped by disappointment, regret, and fear. It means allowing new meaning to bloom where old wounds once lived. You stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and you begin asking, "What is Allah guiding me toward through this?" This shift in perspective opens your heart to a story that is bigger, wiser, and more compassionate than the one you have been holding on to. Healing requires courage, the courage to let go of identities built on hurt, the courage to forgive yourself, and the courage to believe that Allah has written something better ahead. Every hardship, every loss, every betrayal is part of the divine editing process. Allah removes what no longer serves your soul, even when you cling to it. He redirects you from paths that would have broken you. He allows certain endings because He knows which beginnings your heart truly needs. When you surrender your story to Allah, bitterness transforms into wisdom, pain becomes purpose, and brokenness becomes a doorway to expansion. You begin to see that your life is not falling apart. It is being rewritten with divine precision. Healing blooms not because the past disappears, but because you allow Allah to place it in the right chapter. Your narrative becomes one of resilience, growth, and mercy. And in that new story, you realize that Allah was never rewriting your life to diminish you. He was rewriting it to elevate your soul. The soul finds balance through dhikr and conscious presence with Allah. In a world that constantly pulls your attention outward, dhikr brings you back inward, back to the center of your being, back to the place where your heart and its Creator meet. The human soul was created with a natural yearning for its Lord, and when that yearning is neglected, imbalance begins, worry grows, confusion deepens, emotions become scattered, and even small problems feel overwhelming. But the moment the heart returns to remembrance, everything begins to align again. Dhikr is not just the repetition of words, it is the act of recentering the soul. Saying Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar, Astaghfirullah is like gently cleaning the dust that accumulates on the heart. Each remembrance polishes a part of you that the world had dulled. With every breath of dhikr, a little more peace enters, a little more clarity returns, and a little more strength awakens inside you. Conscious presence with Allah means living your moments with awareness that He sees you, hears you, and knows the whispers of your heart. It means turning ordinary actions into worship simply by remembering who you belong to. When you walk with this awareness, your soul stops chasing the chaos of dunya and instead finds harmony in the constant companionship of its Creator. Balance is not found in a life without problems. It is found in a heart that remembers Allah in the midst of them. Dhikr calms the emotional storms, slows the racing mind, and anchors the heart in a deeper truth. With Allah, you are never alone, never abandoned, never without direction. When the soul remembers Allah consistently, it becomes steady, it becomes resilient, it becomes peaceful. Dhikr restores what the world steals: your spiritual balance, your inner quiet, and your sense of being held by the one who created you. Divine timing unfolds at the perfect pace for your spiritual growth. Human beings often rush through life, longing for answers, solutions, and outcomes long before they are meant to arrive. We grow impatient, wondering why our dua seems delayed, why a closed door has not yet reopened, or why change takes so long. But what we perceive as delay is often divine preparation. Allah, in His infinite wisdom, aligns moments with our readiness, not our impatience. Divine timing means that what is written for you will meet you exactly when your heart, your character, and your circumstances are in the place that can carry it without breaking. Sometimes you ask for something that would overwhelm you if it came too soon. Other times, you chase after something that would derail your spiritual journey if it arrived before its time. Allah protects you through timing, even when it feels like withholding. Growth takes time. Healing takes time. Transforming your heart, training your soul, and strengthening your faith all require seasons where nothing seems to move on the outside, but everything is shifting within. These quiet seasons are not voids, they are sacred intervals where Allah molds you from the inside out. When the moment finally arrives, you will look back and realize that the timing was not just right, it was miraculous. Divine timing also teaches humility. It reminds you that you are not the master of your own timeline. You cannot speed up what Allah has slowed down, nor can you delay what He has made immediate. This realization brings a deep, resting peace. You stop fighting time. You stop arguing with qadr. You begin to trust that every pause is purposeful, every delay is precise, and every waiting phase is a mercy in disguise. With this trust, your heart softens. You become patient with life, gentle with yourself, and hopeful with Allah. And the moment your heart aligns with surrender, you begin to witness how beautifully divine timing unfolds, always on time, always with wisdom, always for your growth. Listening to Allah's call means choosing clarity over chaos. The world is full of noise, voices, opinions, distractions, temptations, expectations, fears, all competing for your attention. Every day you are pulled in multiple directions, often without realizing how much this noise shapes your thoughts, your moods, and even your decisions. Chaos becomes normal and clarity becomes rare, but the spiritual heart cannot thrive in noise. It can survive in it, yes, but it cannot truly hear guidance until it chooses quiet, until it chooses to listen intentionally. Choosing clarity means becoming aware of what pulls you away from Allah. It means recognizing how easily your heart becomes crowded with worries that offer no benefit, comparisons that steal your peace, and thoughts that push you into confusion. When your inner world is filled with these voices, you begin to lose sight of who you are and who you belong to. You start reacting rather than reflecting, chasing instead of surrendering, existing instead of consciously living. Allah's call is always present, but the soul must tune into it. When you choose clarity, you choose the Quran over the chaos of your thoughts. You choose du'a over the noise of anxiety. You choose silence over meaningless distractions. You choose presence over haste. In these choices, guidance becomes more visible. You begin to feel Allah's nearness in ways you could not sense before because your heart finally has space to receive it. Clarity is not about having all the answers. It is about knowing where to turn for them. It is about trusting that Allah's guidance brings light to confusion, calm to fear, and direction to uncertainty. When you choose clarity, you choose alignment with your soul's true nature, a nature created to remember Allah, to rely on Him, and to find peace in His presence. In choosing clarity over chaos, you are not withdrawing from life, you are rediscovering the life your heart was designed to live, one guided by the one who knows you better than you know yourself. Forgiveness clears the heart so revelation can enter. Many people underestimate how heavily resentment weighs on the soul. Anger, hurt, betrayal, and disappointment all settle into the heart like dust, layering over its natural purity. Over time, these layers harden, creating barriers that block clarity, peace, and spiritual insight. A heart crowded with old wounds struggles to receive new guidance. It becomes reactive rather than reflective, defensive rather than open. Forgiveness is the act of sweeping these layers away, making space for light to return. Forgiving others does not mean pretending their actions were right. It does not mean forgetting the pain they caused or allowing them to hurt you again. It means refusing to let their actions imprison your heart. It means choosing your peace over your anger, your growth over your wounds, and your closeness to Allah over the heaviness of resentment. When you forgive, you are not freeing them. You are freeing yourself. The heart cleansed by forgiveness becomes a place where Allah's guidance settles gently. Without bitterness polluting your thoughts, you think more clearly. Without anger clouding your vision, you see your life with more wisdom. Without resentment blocking your spiritual senses, you feel the sweetness of Iman more deeply. Forgiveness turns your heart from a battlefield into a sanctuary. Forgiving yourself is equally essential. Many people carry regrets and self-blame for years, punishing themselves for mistakes Allah has long forgiven. This self-directed anger creates inner noise that prevents spiritual growth. When you forgive yourself, you acknowledge that you are human, imperfect, and in constant need of Allah's mercy. You choose to move forward instead of being chained to a past you cannot change. Forgiveness is not a moment, it is a spiritual practice. Each time you let go of a hurt, you open the door wider for peace to enter. And when peace enters, the heart becomes soft, receptive, and ready for the subtle guidance Allah constantly sends. Through forgiveness, you make room for revelation, for clarity, healing, and a deeper connection with the one who loves to purify the hearts of his servants. Every quiet moment is an invitation to return to Allah. In a world that moves relentlessly, silence is rare, and when it appears, many people rush to fill it with distractions. They turn to their phones, their thoughts, or their fears, uncomfortable with stillness because it forces the heart to confront what it has been avoiding. Yet those very moments, the pauses between tasks, the late-night stillness, the early morning calm, are gifts from Allah. They are gentle openings through which the soul can breathe, reflect, and remember its true direction. Allah places these moments in your life not to overwhelm you, but to guide you. When everything slows down, your inner truth rises to the surface. You begin to hear what your heart has been whispering all along, that it longs for meaning, for connection, for the Creator who fashioned it. These quiet intervals are like spiritual doorways. When you walk through them with intention, you step into a deeper awareness of Allah's presence. In silence, you become more honest with yourself. You notice the weight you've been carrying, the worries you've suppressed, the dua you've been postponing. You recognize the gap between the life you live and the life your soul craves. This clarity is not meant to discourage you, it is meant to guide you back to remembrance. In these small pockets of quiet, Allah allows you to see what truly matters. Returning to Allah does not always require grand actions. Sometimes it begins with a single breath of dhikr, a whispered astaghfirullah, or a heartfelt moment of gratitude. When you respond to these invitations, even in the smallest way, your heart begins to soften and your spirit begins to realign. Every quiet moment is a mercy, a reminder, a call. It is Allah telling you, come back to me. And when you answer that call, even subtly, you find that the peace you've been searching for has been waiting for you all along.